Hi, welcome back to my channel. Basically, I wanted to do a video about basically a feeling that we all can have at times. Not everyone necessarily will, but I'm sure most people at some point in their life might feel the urge to feel hatred. I feel like lots of people feel hatred towards other people, but it's also possible to feel it towards yourself. We all have this feeling sometimes of inadequacy, toxic behaviors. We all have behaviors that mean that we are basically none of us are perfect. Some people have like things that are self-destructive, or like some people have low self-esteem. Everyone feels emotion, anger and stuff like that, but I'm just talking about like bringing awareness to the feeling of like hating like yourself and stuff. And often it can be like about a past self, and you can hold beliefs about a time in your life. And I feel like I do this, I've done this. I don't currently hate my current self, but I think there's like a past self that I've had where I got to such a bad place, honestly, at a time that I was going through acne drugs called Roaccutane, which gave me like the side effects of it were really bad. But I think I still hold beliefs. I was also being bullied at that time, but I hold beliefs from that time, because I do think at that time I did hate myself, and I don't anymore. But I think that that time has basically ingrained a set of beliefs inside me, and possibly some behaviours that I can now evolve from and recognise, because they do say that if you bring that hate to your conscious level, you can do stuff to actually be able to change it and sort of like be aware of it and like work towards not feeling that way anymore. And obviously depression is something different. I always think like you have your hardwiring, which is how like your genetics are and stuff, and then you have like the way you think, and then you have like the state of your mind. So that can be like being depressed. I'm not saying people don't have long-term depression, or you can be extremely anxious, or you can go through a mental illness like I did. Back in my other videos you'll see that. And then like obviously the wiring of your brain can be something that's malleable and changeable with therapy and everything like that. Obviously we all have a hard wiring, and none of us are born depressed. We might be just predisposed to feeling bad or anxious, but we are not born that way. So that's why I like talking about that in my channel. So let's get into it after 2.5 minutes. So basically, yeah, as I said, it can be like unknowing subconscious thoughts and patterns in your mind that it's just important to bring awareness to, and then you can sort of, or you can bring awareness to it's not an easy thing. Like obviously we all have a lot of shame that can come from certain things, which can bring you to, there's always going to be factors that bring you to that place. But I'm not talking about the factors right now. I'm talking about processing a past self or a current self, whatever. It brings me to this idea of like festering, like when you start to feel that sort of like low, not low, and we're not talking about depression here, we're talking about when you start to feel those sort of thoughts, which are, as I'm going to talk about, the word festering comes to my mind because sometimes it can be like a bit of a cycle that you're stuck in. But basically, to name like emotions, behaviours and stuff that you might be recognising is actually a really healthy thing, and it can help in the law of attraction to really like in the law of attraction, it's like what you attract because of the way you think and what your beliefs are. So that can also be changed. And just to say at the beginning, awareness, support, dedication to like this, I guess, and like you can overcome self-hatred if you like. So things that you can do if you do this, for signs and whatever, is you might isolate yourself because you think that love from others is a burden. This does relate back to not loving yourself, because there was a train of thought that said if you don't love yourself you can't receive love from others, and I do think that's like valid. Like obviously we don't always love all parts of ourselves, and that's like, I'm not saying, and I'm trying to bring balance here to say like we are all human beings, like everyone has this thing that like not everyone's perfect. It's quite normal to feel like levels of isolation at times, but yeah, like it's easy to think like other people are judging you, even though I know for a fact like 80% of their thoughts are going to be like about themselves, and like 20% of their thoughts that they don't spend on themselves are probably on their children or their work or etc. Like, you know what I mean? Like obviously I have friends that care about me and are going to put time towards me, but as a rule of thumb, like people spend like 80% of their thoughts on themselves. So yeah, you can also feel like a level of guilt and being intrusive by being around others, which is kind of irrational, I would say. Like I do think people jump to this worst case scenario, which again is so natural if you are experiencing a crap time, because you could have had intertwining mental health problems in that, which I feel like I did, which led me to that place, obviously because of my acne, drugs and other various things, but like you then carry that belief onto feeling it in later life, where you feel like you're guilty and being intrusive on others, where you're actually not. So there we go. So having a facade when around others because you're ashamed to be the person you are and you pretend to be someone you're not, which we know, and I'm linking this to other stuff now, I know psychologically they say the ego, which is part of your mind, will overcompensate, not overcompensate, sorry, it will like, I don't know, like you do like, oh, I can't remember what I was going to relate that to now. 2 hours. Oh, I think it's like trauma, sorry. If you go through trauma, to compensate for that, you might pretend to be a lot stronger, like overly much stronger than what you actually are, and whatever that means. You might appear to be really like smart, even you might appear to be really physically strong, you might appear to be really physically fit. So if you feel that you don't meet that have that criteria, if you're traumatized into thinking you're not something, you will overcompensate to the other way, if that makes sense. And that actually makes a lot of sense. So yeah, like you might, another thing that you might experience is you might be afraid to dream big, and we know that people overestimate what they can do they overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. So it's just like, honestly, it's even like me starting this YouTube channel now. Like I said, it's not about views, but I feel like they're like, and I'm not saying I would never stop it, but it's like it's easy to get disheartened in this, for example. I'll just use my example for a thing, because it's some things, especially as you're a child, that I've, obviously I'm only 23, so I've had a lot of time where I feel like for me it was like you commit to something, like college or whatever, or like a job, and until you get to the point where you actually want to quit, like you're kind of like contracted to do that, whereas like this is very freelance and it's easy to like give up. Not to say I won't choose to do a job or have a job on the side, etc., or I just choose to pack it in altogether. I honestly don't know. But like, people as a rule of thumb do underestimate what they can do in 10 years and overestimate what they can do in a year. It goes the same with family. If you might be having ideas about like, oh, I basically I need to be married, I need to have kids, and you might be, as you might think, getting on 35, not have children. Okay, that's not getting on. You might be 40, 45, you've not had children, I don't know, you might have, it might be middle-aged and you might not have children or have a husband or whatever, and you might think, oh, like, it's never going to happen for me, blah, blah, blah. You underestimate what you can do in 10 years, or what will happen in 10 years, and you overestimate what you can do in 1 year. So it really just goes back to, from a biblical standpoint, patience, if you ask me. Like they say the, what is it, the opposite to patience? I can't remember what the opposite is, but yeah, just being patient, like it really can go so far. So you might deny yourself opportunities to grow and also have bad self-care. So like for a self-care thing, it's quite self-explanatory. I don't want to get too deep into that, but denying opportunities to grow, because obviously if you love something, you'd want to, like I've known from support work, like it's unacceptable to leave someone in, if they require care, to leave someone in a like dirty state. You would want to, if they spilt something down them, change their clothes, etc., just to feel more, clean and tidy, etc. So it's really unacceptable for anyone to do that, but you might then do that to yourself, and it's so funny how you wouldn't do that to someone else but you do it to yourself. So not seeing your capabilities, I guess, is like basically not maybe allowing yourself to go and grow in a certain area, like if you want to go for a certain job, or meet new people, or pursue a creative pursuit, I don't know, and it stops you from seeing your capabilities, because we always discover new things, also about ourselves and about the world and things that we might want to move into, and by not doing that, you're really not allowing yourself to do those things. And I don't think everything should come at once, but I think it's always worth leaning into an idea you have and not beating yourself up for not being at somewhere else, because I'm going to get onto this, which is that comparing yourself to others. I think I'm going to just skip forward to this. at that point, because it kind of ties in, which is that people can easily, especially around social media, compare themselves to each other, and it's so unhelpful because there's always going to be someone that does something better. I literally just watched the Kardashian YouTube channel, and then I went and looked on Logan Paul's channel, right? So obviously I don't like to just reference everyone, but it's like Logan Paul, for example, 20 million followers. Kardashians have like, you know, a TV show. Like, there's always going to be someone that one-ups you. You could be so incredibly, you know, beauty standard beautiful, lots of long luscious hair, etc. And, you know, you could like have like loads of followers and loads of nice clothes and really fun, great energy, etc. There's always going to be someone that one-ups you. Always. It's inevitable. There's never, ever, ever going to be anyone. And it's just having gratitude, I think, for me, like what you have. Like, you don't... It's easy when you compare someone. They say comparison's the thief of joy, and it's like, if you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're like always going to basically just like not show gratitude for the things you've got. What's going on there? So yeah, it's just so easy, especially if we're in school as well. Like, from an academic standpoint, we're literally almost conditioned to do that from like a young age, even with like a sibling. I don't know, somehow natural. In the Bible there was, what is it, Cain and Abel, also a jewellery brand, interestingly enough, but it's like they were siblings and they fought with each other. So I guess that's partially where it comes from, but there we go. Seeing things, obviously if you don't believe in the Bible, just ignore that. But then, yeah, you can and then you can, going back to, right, let's go. So you could do things that not do things that make you happy as well, and that sucks, because like we all need things to keep us happy. Like, we all need to have tools and like activities that keep us happy, and then making excuses for not making you happy, and can just get in like a really bad like loop, like a cycle of like just denying yourself certain things. Because I would bring into this, not to tangent too far, and I don't like to tangent too far, I think I will bring this up, which is the idea of value capture, which I've done a whole video on, which is that we're really like going out there a bit now. But I do think that if you do invest everything into one, basically put all your eggs in one basket, wherever that be, studying, go to university, going into a job, going anywhere, and you do adapt your life around that thing. But it's easy to then, once you move on from that thing, lose yourself and actually what comes with you from that situation into something else, because the value from yourself goes into that thing, and you get this instant anyway, I go into value capture then, but I just mean, like, as you move into life, move through life, it's important to just keep yourself as you are and realise that you are not it. You are not the things like outside of you. Like, you are yourself, you are a whole as one person. You are not your partner, you are not your job, you are not your circumstance, you are you. So anyway, so you might be, and then you might adapt this like pessimistic frame of mentality, because I feel like even through like sixth form, I think I developed this sort of, maybe I would say pessimistic, but also what's the word, just indoctrinated mentality. Like, and I know that was from the environment I was in, and that's understandable. I was okay with that at the time, like that's fine, but I think now it might be about kind of moving past that sort of I mean, I think you pick up skills from living in an if you work in an institute, in an environment where you know you have to be there. It might not be the most stimulating environment, you build resilience. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's not at all. So I'm happy about the skills I've learned there, but you also do have to adapt to life and build more skills in different environments. Another thing you might find that is, if you basically praise by others, might be seen as mocking, and others can help you in situations. It's easy as well to isolate yourself and not allow other people to help you, because you are feeling so like all of your problems are yours. Like, you can't ever dish out anything onto anyone else because you have to deal with everything yourself. And I've noticed that's just a really, really, really bad thing to think. Like, obviously I do think there's a level where taking responsibility for yourself is good, but I think this has just come into my mind, especially because I haven't got a phone at the moment, so I can't really share anything with anyone else, and apart from over email. But it's like yeah, like it's so helpful and important to share what you need to share with other people sometimes, friends, family, potentially a therapist if you want to go into something specific. But it's like, but you need something specific to go into therapy apparently. But yeah, you're not on your own. Like, other people are going to be able to help, and like, it's even like the small things you don't even think, like, it might not, but I do think there's a level of like being independent that people strive for, and that's also healthy. So there it is, about the right balance for you. So basically, sorry, I've lost where I was now. Got too into the other stuff. So yeah, having low self-esteem, yeah, so having low self-esteem and basically sabotaging certain situations, and it can also come out in anger if you have this as well. So and like, just checking your attitude towards yourself mainly. Like, obviously this would go to other people, and I think this would naturally, as I always say, we've gone from an astrological era where we look into other people to a new astrological era of Aquarius where we look to ourselves for our situations. So we're quite conditioned to look to other people and how we treat them, but we don't look to how we treat ourselves and the attitudes we have towards ourselves. So just checking your attitude is actually going to be something that's really helpful. So yeah, you might tear yourself down, as another example of what you might find, or you and I think, yeah, it just, they said in this video, like, it's good to, like, to keep keep an eye and acknowledge like what it is that you are actually experiencing and feeling, and what your thoughts and beliefs are. And I've gone through videos on my channel that you can do that, and there's also various other things over the internet and other things where you might be able to acknowledge what you're feeling, and that's good because it can just help you keep an eye on stuff, because there is certain things where you are involved in trauma where you can't necessarily, or you don't feel ready to change straight away from something that you might have been feeling, and obviously we'll all process things in our own time. So you might I've done that one. I think that's basically everything. Oh yeah, you just might feel a lot of guilt or or like negative emotions like guilt, shame, and you might feel like inadequate and just indulge in negative feelings. Like, I feel like we all have negative and positive feelings, and you might feel like that you've even got like unprocessed negative feelings that you haven't actually managed to like delve into, and that's like important to be able to like process all of that, which is great. But sometimes you can also like indulge in those feelings of feeling inadequate and just not great. Not to say like things like depression, like I understand some people like have a predisposition, like, you know, it's always valid, like whatever you're feeling. Like, I'm not saying like you have to be like this. I understand that people get themselves into that place, of course I do. Like, you know, I can't talk, I've been in the mental health system, and I know people that have depression, which I just don't have that much personal experience with it, but I have been there before. It's not something you can always feel like you have ultimate control over at that time, and that's fine and that's understandable. But it's just like it can be something that you might also find that you do due to this like self-hate kind of thing. So anyway, as I've gone on for 20 minutes, I'm gonna like wrap it up, but I just think it's just important to like spread awareness. This isn't a sort of like woe is me kind of video, but I mean, woe is me, like, whatever. This isn't like to try and sort of like, it's to give validation, give awareness, stuff like that. Like, I don't want to be like someone who just like is trying to validate anyone, and it actually has hit me in a certain way. So I always find that like most of the videos I do are something that I found out for myself, and I just like want to share it. So I hope you got something from it, because I certainly did. So thank you very much for listening. I'm going to go. Thank you, bye.